There's a lot of heart and a lot of carnage at Marvel. Joel's here. Let's chat.
Now Majak Door. He's got the runner inside Majak. He tried the shimmy and the sidestep. Uses the 15. How good is that?
The shimmy and the shake. That's how it's playing.
Welcome back, everybody. Further north, here we are now. My voice is a bit cooked. So if I squeak, if I say anything weird, please don't roast me in the comments. Unless you like the video, then you're allowed to roast in the comments. Joel is here. Hello, mate. How are you feeling after our centenary game and all the celebrations and the hoo-ha?
Yeah, no, it's a very great night to go out there. My voice is also a little bit gone, partly from that and partly just a bit of a cold. But I think it was a great night. I got there early. I think quite a few of the fans that got there early. It was good to see. For me, seeing Pagan and Kerry holding the 96 Cup again was something very special for me. And the mate I went with, Mick. So it's really good night, really good to watch. Just really happy about everything that I saw on the field with that.
Yeah, I mean, look, let's maybe go straight to the celebration itself. Maybe we can talk about this and then some individuals more than breaking down the game, because we all know how it went. First off, I mean, what did you think of all the celebrations? And maybe let's talk about the individual things. I mean, I guess the first thing they did, I think Corey McKernan spoke a little bit, just got asked some questions and then went into the sort of the lights dimming and all the players from the different generations holding the cups. How did you find that first part of the celebration?
Yeah, I thought it was a very good way for the club to sort of be able to give a bit to the fans and just show the rich history of the club. Obviously going through 75, 77 and, then obviously 96, 99. So I really quite enjoyed that part, seeing the old players holding up the cups and, even coming down to the WAFL Grand Final Cup, which I really loved seeing that one out there as well. Then obviously, I guess the next part of it was the 300 game players where they went around in like the car just across in front of the member part. That was really, really, you get to see some of these players that you've really idolised and really loved watching growing up. And, Goldie back from Essendon just for that, time, and obviously Drew. It's just really lovely to watch, and just I really, really enjoyed it. I thought the club did really well with the night.
I've got a beef with the cars going around in Bay 29, where literally the cars drove past, but there was no one in the back, and I didn't see the players get out of the car. I was just like chatting to some people, looking around, waiting for these cars to come around, and they got out of the car before they got to the bay, and I'm just like, what are we doing? We got the premium seats in Bay 29, of course, and. No luck. So I did not get to see Little Boomer Harvey in the back of a BT50, which I was a little bit unhappy about. But, they all go into the middle, and there was so many. It was hard to see there was so many past players on that ground. And there was a nice bit, was it Hamish McLaughlin? Did it? No, was it Hamish McLaughlin who did the voiceover?
I think it was, yeah.
Is that who it is? Yeah. Whoever did that, the monologue about the car. I know Brayshaw did one, but then there was one of the commentators. I think, was it Hamish McLaughlin? Have I got him completely wrong? You guys know who I'm talking about. Black, semi-curly hair, slicked back, or Andy someone. Oh, who cares? Anyway, there was a big pump-up sort of thing, and then they did this monologue with Brayshaw about, the history of the club and all the things that we've achieved. And look, the real thing that we were all leading up to is Dennis Pagan doing the speech before the game. And, there's only so much I think you can do with celebrations in, like, a big stadium like that to make everyone feel engaged. And, a couple of the interviews and the players standing there getting their 10 seconds on camera with the cups and stuff was nice. But the Pagan thing was so much better than I thought it would be good, but it G'd me up, mate. And that was, and I wasn't there for the 90s, and people know that, but I felt like I was kind of there, seeing him, pointing at the players and really getting into it and giving them that speech, and all the old players in the circle with the new players and all that sort of stuff, with Pagan addressing everyone before the game. I was, goosebumps, mate. It was genuinely really, really good. It fired me up.
Oh, yeah, that was really special that time. Seeing such a legendary coach at the club and just having that moment, it felt really included as a fan in that situation, because obviously it's going over the speakers. I mean, I struggled to hear, to be honest, a lot of it. You got words here and there from where I was, but just the atmosphere that it was creating of, seeing all the players in the group and then all the old players, and it's a really just good representation of what, the club is as a whole. It's not just obviously something that we do on a weekend. It's something that, a lot of people have a really deep passion for. It's greater than any one individual supporter, and it's greater than any individual, player, coach, or anything like that. It's something that's, been there for 100 years, and we just support it for this short time, but it's something that we love to follow. And I really enjoyed it a lot. I think it was a great night for it.
Yeah, definitely fired everyone up, and man, I wish Dennis could be there every game. It'd be nice. Get him on the coaching staff. I say, what's he up to? Can't be that much. So, no, that was great. A little negative I just want to point out, and I'm not, of course, not blaming anyone in particular for this, but there was only 25,000 there at Marvel Stadium, which I think is a bit poor, for a centenary celebration. I know we're a smaller club, but I would have thought we'd be able to get a few more there. And I know the Doggies aren't the biggest fan base, and that all goes into it, but there was literally 25,009 it's been reported as far as I know. Would have loved to see a few more people there, I think. And there was some fantastic fans. I met a gentleman called Jono who came to the barbershop, and he flew down interstate, just for this occasion. And that core group of fans, and every fan that was there is a fantastic job. Of course, if you couldn't make it for whatever reason Thursday night, I understand. Yeah. But this is the thing that a centenary celebration we're never seeing in our lifetimes again, unless they get some weird AI tech that they can put in the back of my brain, which I don't even know if I'd be up for, to be honest. So probably never seeing this sort of stuff again. And look, I'm not trying to dampen this part of the podcast here, but 25,000, I would have maybe thought we'd be able to get a few more across the line there. But hey, for the 25,000 that were in there, and however many of that was North Melbourne fans, they got to see something pretty special. And it was good up until Dennis, and then it was great. And it really sort of sunk in at that time for me. So I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that at all.
No, I agree with you. I mean, like the 25,000, and obviously you want a lot more. I think what we've seen over this season particularly is that the Thursday night time slot is a bit of a dead time slot. Like we were talking just before, we obviously went on about how we've both been at work now for, the 12 hours. Yeah. And, you leave the ground, you get home close to midnight, you're up at, most people are up around that 6 a.m. mark, and then you're, off for a full day of work before the weekend. So, it's not a great time slot for that. I mean, I understand that the club did it because they wanted the free-to-air as well. Television and visibility is exceptionally important. I imagine the viewing of the game on the TV would be, it's definitely bigger than the Saturday one on the free-to-air. So, but otherwise, it's I imagine it's bigger than those kind of situations, and that's probably what the club was looking at more so. But I still think the atmosphere from where I was and that was really good, and that was probably the more important part, I think, for it. But it is a disappointing number.
Yeah, I mean, look, atmosphere-wise, it was great, especially through that Dennis thing. There were so many times that the fans started cheering for the things that Dennis said, and you could see on the players' faces when you could see some of them in the background of the shot with Dennis, and you could tell that they were into it as well, and that sort of stuff. So, no, look, it was really, really good. So, let's go into maybe team selection, because there was a big talking point with a lot of outs, the most outs we've had this season. Now, Finbar and Will Dawson playing in the same game, mate, is your wet dream as far as I'm concerned. What did you think of the changes? And maybe let's go after we talk about that. We might talk about a little bit of the response from the Hawthorn game with the fans, and maybe your thoughts on that going into this one. But changes, what did you think when they were named?
We didn't there were forced changes to a large extent. I mean, Darling was, Darling's not going to be back next week either. Seeing Dawson Stadium made a lot of sense. We didn't have a lot of choices, and I was talking with yet again my mate Mick about this going into the game. It's hard to reframe your thinking around it, but my framing around it and my thought pattern is this is a great opportunity for the side to show that structure is more important than anything. It's not about if our club is so reliant on individual players, we're never going to be a premiership side. You look at Collingwood. Yeah, exactly. Yep. You look at Collingwood, you look at
even the Bulldogs, mate, with all their injuries at the start of the year.
Yeah, you look. It doesn't matter who you plug into these sides; they will continue to perform at a high level.
Hawthorn as well, probably.
Yeah, Hawthorn, absolutely. I mean, Brisbane, when they've got these outs, they continue to roll. And I was hoping to see that kind of response, and I was very, very happy with what I saw for most of the game. And I think we really acquitted ourselves really well. In terms of last week with Hawthorn, unfortunately, we were always prone to have a performance like that. We've been in Perth for 2 weeks. we came back, then we had another short turnaround to a Tassie game. Hawthorn just for some reason really can get a hold of us. Like, we were going to have that performance. Is it a good performance? No, horrific. But you wanted to see the response. And when we start talking about this game, I think we saw a fair good response of this. And I think we showed a lot of guts and a lot of effort in this game that, you would love to have seen previously, but especially for a 5-day turnaround, which is probably the other reason that we saw a lot of these guys out. But yeah, I was happy with the selections. I was happy with everyone who came in. The only one I would have loved to have seen is Bench. I think Bench is AFL quality and should be playing now. Yeah. But we'll get to talking about the players and then we'll go from there as well. There's a few interesting ones, I think.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't mind the changes. I would have liked to see, and obviously in hindsight would have been helpful, see Tiku get a shot, or even CCJ, just because he's been in emergency for a few weeks. I like Finbar, but I'm not sure I'm completely sold on him just yet. So I know we can talk about this. We'll talk about this when we get to the players, but I would have maybe liked to see a more slightly versatile player. And look, there is a lot of hindsight with this, knowing he had to ruck for the majority of the fourth quarter or all the fourth quarter, whenever Sherry ended up going off. But yeah, the changes were right. I like to see Cooper Harvey get a game. That was exciting. Yeah. And who did play quite well, which we'll dive into a little bit more. But yeah, I think they're very Clarkson-esque changes. We want to see Banch, but he just doesn't seem like the guy who's going to throw him in the deep end or anyone like that. And I'm not sure why Tiku isn't getting a shout or anyone like that. But hey, maybe that's just me. So, look, we go into this game. I was very disappointed with the fans' reaction last week to Hawthorn. I was vocal about that on the podcast after the Hawthorn game, and I think we're a better fan base than that. And I think the team should have earned more credits in the bank with what they've been doing the last few months of football. I don't think that the team deserved us throwing the toys out of the pram and spitting the dummy completely. Not all the fans, but there was a big chunk of the fan base that was. The amount of messages I received saying the last 2 months don't matter. And look, I understand that's an emotional response straight after the game, but that conversation went on for a few days afterwards, and that's very disappointing from a very loyal, committed fan base like North Melbourne has, very passionate fans that stick with this team through everything. After all we've shown, I really think that was a disappointing response. And, like you sort of hinted at before, and we'll just talk about the game overall for 5 minutes or so, and then we'll go into players because there's more to talk about there. We all know how the game played out, but, I was talking to people at the barbershop about this game, and, the general public who don't watch North every week were thinking, back to old North. They're going to get smashed by the Dogs. A lot of North fans I was talking to, Darcy's kicking 8. We're going to get done by 100, blah, blah, blah. And the whole time I was thinking, look, there's a chance, but this team showed a lot more guts and a lot more fight than that in different games this season. And yes, we got smashed by the Hawks and won against Carlton. The Swans game wasn't ideal. Other than that we haven't put in too many bad performances over this season. And I think the team deserves more respect for that. As the game kicks off, obviously the Doggies getting the first 2 goals didn't feel very good at the start. But then it felt like they really dug in. Larky's first quarter, mate, he was on for 16 at one point. If only he kicked that fifth after the siren. It's just unbelievable stuff. And then we really put a shift in that quarter to stop the first 2 goal bleeding and to get back in the game and get in front. Really, up at, even till halftime, we're right in this thing. We're within a couple of goals at halftime, or under 2 goals or whatever it was. So and exactly what you pointed out before, that the system is coming together. And I've said this a million times on the pod, so I'm not going to harp on about it, but Clarkson did say at the start of this season, or went in the best and fairest night, we finally have a list that we can build a game plan around. And we're seeing Cooper Harvey's come in, Finbar, or whichever player you want to point out, coming in and playing a role for the team. Bailey Scott coming in, and I think he looked okay on the night. We're getting that. The VFL team is performing better. I know they lost tonight and bad one last week, but they're performing well, and we've got headaches with selection every week. So I've waffled on enough here, but I was disappointed with the response by the fans. I think the team deserves a little bit more grace from what they've put out, and I think that response has hopefully reassured some fans that this system is coming together slowly, and the players will fight as many weeks as they can for the year. And one bad performance here and there does not mean we've regressed.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I mean, just to, touch on that first half particularly, in previous seasons when those first 2 goals have been kicked by the Doggies, that game is not getting back under control at any stage. That's a 7-goal-to-1 first quarter.
Yep.
The improvement is drastically there. It's slower than everyone would love, but it's definitely there. It's definitely happening. And, stick with the boys in this stage. I think next year there's going to be a lot more of a run at it with a few of these boys getting a bit bigger, a bit stronger, and a bit more game time. But they got the first 2 goals. I was very concerned at that time. It was reminding me of Old North. But then the fight back, the effort in the middle, and the thing that was pointed out, I think, by Sheasel and a few others is they got the first 2 goals, and then I think it was the 2 quick goals in red time at the end of the second. And if you, control those times a little bit better, we're up by a little bit at halftime, a bit more. And I think third quarter we put in a pretty good shift. And fourth quarter, pretty exhausted. And even to add to, everything, obviously, Parker, who's arguably been top, he's definitely a top 3 midfielder in our side. George, who's very valuable for our build at the moment, he was out. And LDU going down. And LDU was looking very, very good to start that game. He was really sharp, I thought. And then he went from there, and it was just really nice to see.
I completely agree. Like, we really struggled in those first couple of minutes, and we just needed a steadier, and we sort of got that, which I think is good. So look, the second half, there's someone banging on the door. There's someone banging on the door there, Joel. If you want to pause your mic or whatever, feel free. I'll talk to the fans for a bit. I think Joel's daughter's rocking up. Anyway, I think for this game, I really liked what we put out and what we ended up doing as we sort of went on. I really like that the fight back and all that sort of stuff happened. And I think we stuck it out and really put in a proper shift. So Joel is back now as well. We really put in a proper shift in this game. And yes, we tailed off in the last quarter. We were all sitting there as a fan base in Bay 29 after many Kangas. We sort of knew we were going to fall away. No Sherry, Larky got a knock on the knee. Obviously LDU being down from the start, not much on the bench there. And I think the shift they put in with no Parkers, no Darlings, no McDonalds and things like that, geez, the injuries are piling up for us now. Really good performance up until the last quarter. And I think, and we'll talk about your man, Will Dawson, because he's one of the shining lights of this game. But he's going to get his whole own segment, mate. Don't you worry about that. When we had to move him forward, it sort of fell apart, and that's where Darcy got on top, and it sort of blew out. It definitely wasn't a near 50-point loss for us on the night. It just was not on the balance of play. And for us as a club where we're at, that is more important than the final result. I know some people don't agree with that, and that is okay. But in a world of realism, we're 16th and they're a finals team. Once we get some of those guys back, because we don't have the depth, and once the system gets better, we're going to be there because we've got the talent. I think that's an important thing. So let's have a chat about some of the guys who went down in the game. Tristan, an interesting one, this one. It didn't get hit overly hard, but it almost looked like he got sniped from the top row a little bit. Like he sort of copped a slight knock to the head and dropped straight down after a couple of hits high in the game. Have you heard anything about what's going on with him? Because Clarkson said he's okay, and he said he went and a doc checked him out and he could have come back on. They just didn't risk it. Have you heard anything about this?
The club's come out and said it wasn't a concussion, or it's not concussion related. I think it did look a bit bizarre at the time. It is worth, obviously you'd investigate something like that as a club and as a thing, but if it's not not a concussion, but the guy was beaten from pillar to post. So everyone that was going at him was doggies are physical. You've got Bonch, you've got Frazier, you've got Libba. English, who I thought was very soft in different stages, managed to when he had the opportunity and he was doing it well, is he would jump on him, he would have that leap and use the leap because Cherry loves to wrestle. So it's just an interesting watch. But I just think he was getting exhausted, and I think he's been hitting the wrong spot. But it's worth watching for next week. I imagine he'll play next week. I'd be a bit surprised if he didn't. And it's going to be a much longer turnaround. It'll be, 10 Thursday days to Sunday. So you'll see a few of those guys. But I was pretty happy with him. I guess if we wanted to talk about a few players, since you've flagged him as not being overly happy, I'd love.
Well, let's go through the injury. Let's go through the injuries first, and then we'll get into it. Okay.
Okay.
LDU. second week in a row, he's sort of been clocked very early in the game. I'm not trying to suggest it's a tactic, but 2 weeks in a row doesn't happen too often, basically in the first couple of minutes of the game. Was there a result? Is he...
He'll be concussed. It's concussion. He'll be out next week.
Yeah. So is it 10 days from when the incident happened or 10 days from no symptoms?
I think it's 10 or 14, I can't remember.
Because 10 days is the day of the D's game. So is that, I'm assuming that's the 10th day is not, and I know he's not going to play. I'm not trying to suggest that. I'm just we have 10 days from the incident until we play the D's, and it just sucks he's going to be out. I know the AFL wouldn't want that in that loophole. So I'm sure that's why they've made it 10 days because it's a weird number. But, really unlucky for LDU. The concussions are sort of stacking up a little bit at North at the moment. So, we're getting hit in the head a lot.
Yeah, he was it's a really unfortunate. Richards, I don't think was doing too much other than just trying to fend at the wrong time. And I don't think Richards there was anything malicious in it. He was just a bit lucky. And LDU, I thought was the last few weeks I've really loved his footy. I think he's been even in the Hawthorn game. I think he was probably one of our better ones for the game. He's been in a good spot. I'm just a bit. I was a bit disappointed to see him go down, but it also yet again. You need to be your next man up club. I think the person who would be given a lot of opportunities, like a Phillips in the middle and Tom Powell's, it was Tom Powell's midfield from there. And Jai, I think, had some good moments as well. But, and we did really well in clearances even without LDU, which is a really important thing to note.
I was going to say just Larky as well. I didn't see this happen at the game. I only found out. Okay, yeah, because I was going to say, did you see this happen? He got a knock on the knee apparently and was on the exercise bike a lot. A few people I talked to today who watched the broadcast, they were showing him on the exercise bike. Clarkson has said in his press conference he's okay as well. Yeah. It's just a knock. But, I didn't really realise this. All of a sudden, Will Dawson was forward and I was like, okay. And, I haven't seen Larky for a bit and there was a bit of chatter in the crowd about it. So, I don't think there's any concern there. The other one was apparent. Did something happen to Will Dawson at all? Injury?
He was limping at the end. I think he got a bit of a corked calf from. Okay. I think it was when he was in one of the ruck contests. He got a corked calf from one of the players. Is what I heard. And I suspect it won't be too much. I'm hoping that he plays again next week. It'll be a good opportunity again. So, I wasn't too. But he did cop a knock. So last quarter, if you're talking about three players that you would not want out of our list. On any given time, Cherry, LDU, and Larky. And Larky,
it's the worst three.
Probably the three that you would say not to take out. And we covered 100%. Really well for Larky after that first. And then obviously the last quarter, you could see we're exhausted. Cherry, going down. Cherry was really dominant that first half. English did manage to kick a couple of goals, but Cherry was really dominant and he was giving us a lot of opportunity quickly. So him going down was really, really hurtful. And Finbar can have moments in there, but he's not a full ruck. And Dawson, who's a utility and he's really tall, yet again, he's not played ruck at any since juniors, and he played a little bit at juniors.
Well, Loke did a couple of ruck contests, didn't he, at one point? He wasn't doing anything in the back line, so we may as well chuck him in the ruck. But, look, that all being said, let's go to the back line first because your man, my man, but your man more, Will Dawson. Your man. My guy's Dylan Stevens, to be fair. And we'll talk about the sport. Don't you worry about that. That was a goat tier stuff. What a performance from Will Dawson. The only goal that Darcy kicked on him was that 50-metre penalty, which I'm sure was just the cheapest thing I've ever seen in my life, and which was many of the free kicks, which we can get into later. And the other two came when he went forward, and the back line was a bit decimated. And look, that's a breakout game for him. That's a stamping his name on this is I'm coming for this spot, and he can't get dropped after that. Pink's form, maybe a little bit down. It was sort of Pink and Logue rotating off Norton, which he got a hold of everybody who was on the night. That was Josh Bruce-esque almost. Yeah. And just this is your floor, your stage. You talk to me about Will Dawson.
You know how high I've been on Will Dawson, obviously. When I was looking at the lineup and looking at it on paper, you look at who can potentially match up with Darcy. First game, we obviously had Chom, and I think at the time, people sort of knocked Chom's performance on him, and I'm not huge on Chom's one-on-one at that time.
He only kicked a goal in the first game, though, didn't he?
He did, and I think Chom played him exceptionally well. This game, I'm looking at the paper, I'm like, Toby Pink's way too small. He's not going to go near him at the reach, and Logue, I don't think he's got any assets. The only person that can realistically match up up on him is Dawson. Dawson's fast off the sprint. He's really tall, and he's actually he's not as big as he's going to get, but he put on like 15 kilos or 13 kilos in the off season apparently. And he's a big boy, and he's an angry boy, which I really like.
Oh, yes. He loved getting in a scrap with Darcy, didn't he?
Loved it.
Love it. How
and,
good.
I think the first half, you saw him take a couple of marks and get a bit more confidence. Usually when he was contesting with him, he was a bit more body, and I think in the future he might give away frees in those situations. Particularly the third, he got him a lot of times on full stretch. And there's not a lot of players in the AFL who can spoil Darcy at full stretch.
Well, what I was noticing was Will Dawson would play a little bit off because Darcy would be set and try and take the ball at the highest point. And Will Dawson would almost sit a couple of metres off, get a little run up, and then just try and meet the ball right at the point of contact to Darcy's hands. And 9 times out of 10,
he nailed
it. He did it really, really, really well. I'm starting to get excited thinking of a backline with Dawson and Comben because Comben's been much better. And,
don't forget Whitlock.
Well, yes, but that 3 2-meter players in the backline, I just don't see it in the modern AFL. I don't know, mate.
I would say, Dawson doesn't have the ability to go with a Norton just because of speed. He'll beat him in any. If you're forcing the ball long and high, he'll beat him. But if you're doing it quick, he'll struggle against the speed of a. But then you look at the future of the Kings. I think But if you rotate through and you've got good system, those 3 are going to be chopping off a lot. And I think Chom is fast enough on the ground and a Whitlock's fast enough on the ground. And Dawson's no slouch on the ground. It's just Norton's particularly athletic.
Is there a team in the league that has those 3 2-meter sort of guys in the back line though?
No.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. Because Whitlock, to me, is still put that man in the forward line. I'm going to be on this forever until the day that we do not have a forward next to Larkey, and we're all crying because we haven't recruited someone, we haven't drafted somebody. I'm like, well, the man was there because Dawson's just shown he's a defender. Do not throw that man forward. Exactly the same as Charlie Comben. Do not throw that man forward. I said this all last year too. He's a defender now. You play him there every game and you make him fantastic at his position. Who's the other 200-centimetre player that is a utility that's played forward in his juniors plenty of times, more than Will Dawson ever has, that can do that? It's Whitlock. In intercept mark, well, how about you intercept in our forward line and then you kick it through the sticks, mate? He can do it. So I think it's absolute blasphemy he's not playing as a forward, especially after that Will Dawson game. It just makes me go, is this really not reality? Anyway, it is what it is. So Will Dawson.
Loving Will Dawson. I think, as I last week I was a bit disappointed with the output, not because of his game, but
he grew into the game.
He did, but it's not it was not a good representation of what he plays like. Because
I've watched good matchups for him too against Hawthorn. So small, so zippy.
Yeah. Oh, Gunston's a really intelligent forward with that size and ability to move. And Whitlock is a 19-year-old who's played back for a limited time and is still learning his way into the game. It's a really, really tough matchup for him. But that's the big thing. He's only 19. He's going to get bigger. He's going to get stronger. Those forwards in the finals that will worry us in a few years when we start getting there is your Kings, is your, obviously a Darcy, and that matchup, he's the prime matchup for players like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's pivot then. Let's lump Pink and Logue sort of together here. Just a quick word on them. We won't. We might spend more time on some of the more positive performances. But Pink has been a little bit down since we announced the Pink Pony Club. I'm not sure if the hype got to Toby Pink at all. But look, I still think he's got credits in the bank here, and I still think he's the option to move forward with. Look. I'll let this one go. Toby Pink really just didn't get a hold of Norton early, and they sort of switched Logue onto him sometimes, who also didn't do anything. Pink still took a few intercepts in this game and did play fairly well. We did the Toby Pink chant 3 times in the base, so he was having some good moments down there. Griffin Logue, for me, I think it's time to, if Chom's ready, that's the swap for me. It's Logue out for Comben, because I think Pink's been better than Logue all season. You can't drop Dawson after that. And if Comben is ready to come back in, I really would like to see that Dawson Comben with Pink being a slightly smaller defender. Griffin Logue, ideally on paper, is the guy that I would want next to Comben and Dawson, right? Quicker, third man up sort of guy, can play a bit smaller, athletic, but he's just not doing it right now, mate. And I think it was a poor performance from Griffin Logue.
I thought, my personal opinion is I thought Logue slightly outperformed Pink.
Do you really? Okay.
On the night, because Pink, not to Pink's fault. Norton's a smart enough forward and pretty quick and strong. It's just a tough matchup for those guys, and I thought they were really exposed in it. I think Pink benefits most when you've got a really good intercepting defender, because he's a really smart backman and he's able to funnel the forwards to where he wants to go. And when you've got a player like a Charlie Comben at the moment whose intercepting is very elite, he's able to go into those spaces a lot better, and Pink's going to push them towards that direction, or he's going to take the better spot for himself. But when you're playing against the Norton, and like Dawson hasn't learnt that aspect of his game yet. He will, but he hasn't learnt that as well at the moment. That's going to be sort of the difference. But I thought Logue was a bit better. But that being said, I thought they both got towelled in the end. So
yeah. Well, I'm looking at it, and like Pink, 7 intercept possessions and took 2 contested marks for the night. Griffin Logue, 4 intercepts, no contested marks at all.
No.
I just think Pink had. I'm not saying Pink had a good game at all, but I think Pink had good moments along with his bad. I think Griffin Logue was just kind of there and had some bad ones too. And look, if there is a swap to be made, I would probably prefer Griffin to go out. And this is crazy talk because he's meant to be our guy. Right? He's meant to be the guy that's in this team every week and wanted to play backline and wants to be a bit of a leader at 26, 27, whatever he is now. So it's disappointing, but you know, you got Toby Pink beating you, mate, and you got to have a look at yourself and what are you doing wrong? What can you do better, and how is this happening? So Norton got that's just one of those games where the player just is on fire, but also that I think Pink made up for it in other ways, contributing with intercepts and some contested stuff. And obviously he spoiled that was apparently delivered out of bounds, which was just one of the worst calls I've ever seen in football. But I just don't think Logue added anything at all to that. But look, they both didn't really perform on the night. I just think Pink's got more cards to be holding on to.
He's got more credits in the bank at the moment than Logue. Yeah. I mean, I think Logue off a full preseason next year will be the player in that role. But that being said,
you'd hope so too.
You'd hope so, and he should be given what we've, the value that we've got in. But that being said, unfortunately, I think they both lowered their colours. I think Norton absolutely pants both of them, which is disappointing, especially considering how well Dawson did against Darcy, who is, I love Darcy. I think he's an elite player, and I think Dawson did really well in that situation.
Anything else from the back line here? I mean, look, O'Sullivan really wasn't cited much for the game, very quiet. Caleb Daniels had a bit spoken about him. Do you have any thoughts on Caleb Daniel? I really think this guy is so targeted by people. I know he has got a couple of turnovers in him, but I think the majority of what he does is pretty positive for us. But I saw a lot of hate for him online, which is obviously just where people go to hate. But you look at 25 touches, 60%, which is lower for him, but still a lot better than a lot of people in the team. I still think he's pretty crucial. The problem I had with Daniel was because there was no Archer and no McDonald, Daniel and McKercher were the players getting sucked into covering people right deep in our back line. And that was never going to be, but you can't blame Caleb Daniel for that. He tried his heart out to spoil a couple of times. He tried to spoil Darcy once. There's just no chance of that. So it's like, I don't know. Do you think he's still getting a bit over-criticised, or what's going on here?
He is. I mean, him and it's funny to me because, I love Kirch. But Kirch's, absolutely. But Kirch's kicking in a few of those moments was actually,
had a couple of turnovers,
and I think both of them have been given license to come off that half back line. North's biggest improvement is going to happen, and I'll guarantee our biggest improvement is going to happen when those guys it's either a system thing or a targeting thing, when those guys are more reliably hitting targets coming out of that half back line. They've been given license. When it works well, like you saw it in the first quarter, it looks elite. When it's not coming off and we get a bit bogged down, then you see, that's when you start to see the other opposition get goals and lock it in. I think they're both the right players at the moment. I think Daniel gets way more hate than he deserves because he's doing those dangerous kicks and he's looking bad because of it. I find it strange that Kirch doesn't indifference. I love Kirch. Great player. I think he had an elite game tonight. Last night. But he turned it off for a lot by foot. And if you watch the highlights of this coming out of the back line, it's that same issue. And that's what the issue is. It's not just Daniel doing it. Kirch does it. I don't hate it if they're doing aggressive kicks to try to do something for the game. It's just they're going to have to make better decisions. And that's just going to happen with system and time.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, yeah, McKercher had a really, really bad one trying to spear it into the corridor and just went straight to another doggy. That it kept the ball really, really low. I don't know who marked it, but but I think I want them to. And like you said, they've been given license to try these kicks because when it works, it opens us up, and that's how we transition. McKercher is also a 19-year-old, and I think maybe the reason he doesn't get the hate is because
probably right. Yeah.
Daniel's an established premiership player, been an All-Australian, and he should maybe have come in and I'm assuming people expect him to hit every single kick he ever kicks, which is a bit unrealistic. But yeah, they've got license to try and get it off the half back line. And look, there wasn't much to present to up the ground. I mean, Sherry doesn't do it. Finbar had soap for hands a lot of this game, which we'll get to. And I don't know. There was nothing for him to do. The back line struggled to get it out of the back line. Yeah. So we could not get that past halfway. And it was the consistent forward 50 entries from the Dogs that ended up breaking our backs. And that responsibility is on McKercher, O'Sullivan, Daniel, Dylan Stevens, those sort of guys. I'm going to pivot to Dylan Stevens here really quickly because that spoil was right in front of us, right in that forward pocket. Darcy was in an acre of space. And I know Darcy fumbled it a bit as well, but it was his effort to get back that made that happen. And that ended up in a transition goal. And that is the reason that we've improved this year, because players like Pink, players like Dylan Stevens, guys that most fans would have been happy to walk out of this club at the end of last year, have all improved and our floor has been raised. That is the type of effort. He put his body on the line so many times through the season, and that is something he's improved massively this year. And I'm the OG Dylan Stevens guy, and you guys are going to let me have this. His kicking is elite. Yeah. Every time he got that ball on that left-hand side wing, he found a target. And the only reason the players dropped it is if they fumbled it. His foot skills are elite. If he can get the ball more, he's going to be a really handy player for us. But he's physical now. He's not scared of contact. And he will run and make things happen, as in he'll try, and he's holding the ball up more and not getting beaten like a Bailey Scott can do, like a Robert Hansen can do. So shout out Dylan Stevens, because that is genuinely in 10 years' time when I say to you, you remember when Dylan Stevens spoiled the ball off Sam Darcy and we ended up in a transition goal? That's going to be like, I don't know who was it to
Kane Turner to Aiden
Cole. That's the one. I was like, was it Jack
Never
Money or Kane Turner?
forget.
Yeah, the overlap handball to Aiden Cole for a goal outside 50 against the Suns. That's that sort of stuff, except Dylan Stevens is much better. So shout out Dylan Stevens.
Hey Josh, Jen here. Deliberate. Oh, pay deliberate again against North. What a shit rule. And it's not the only one in the AFL. Anyways, on to next week's game against the D's. Very winnable game, folks. Hopefully we can win it. Go Roos. Happy 100 years.
Give me a Pagan Rev Up before every game for the rest of my life, please. That was just pure Shimboner emotion personified. Love you. Just love you to bits, man.
Reading a lot of the comments, sounds like people are pretty happy with that, but I'm not fairy clapping honourable losses anymore. We lost by 50 points on the 100-year anniversary of North Melbourne Football Club. How is anyone happy with that? Makes me sick. I don't care how many people were out, how bad the umpires were. Shocking. I'm freaking over it. That's 7 losses by 40 points or over this year. There's no improvement.
All we really ask for is fight and pressure, and if we can apply that, we seem to be doing pretty well, and the rest comes naturally, including skills. So, to almost beat a top 4 team with a really high percentage, when we were so undermanned, missing major players, I thought we did pretty well.
Let's go to the midfield then. If there's not much more to talk about with the back line, we should be moving this on because we've gone for 36 minutes already. Okay, midfield. Give me your rundown, because I'll give you a counterpoint to what you sort of pointed out before, and then I'm going to let you go here. I wasn't super impressed. I loved the midfield's resilience and their intent. From my point of view, I don't feel like we won the clearance battle. And I know we did. I know I've seen the numbers. Did not feel like it at all. And it's classic North, where we'll get the tap. It either doesn't go to our team, or if it does, we hack that thing forward as far as we can go. Rory Lobb was intercepting everything. Is it O'Donnell? Is that the guy's name? He was intercepting everything. I think they had 9 and 7 individually intercept possessions. Let me just double check this. Lobb had 10. Lobb 10. Caulfield had 8. O'Donnell had 7 in the game intercept possessions. that is garbage. That is genuine garbage. And I just the midfield tried their hearts out, and I loved. And I'm not saying they were bad at all, but I don't take anything from us winning that clearance battle, because the scores that the Dogs would have got off clearance to ours would have been mind-boggling.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I disagree to an extent. I think, like, we're getting the ball in quickly, and, like, yet again, when you see it working well, like in some of that first half particularly.
But really quickly, sorry to cut you off really quickly.
That's right.
The what we did was that's when we actually got open and we actually had a couple of steps to take. Lucky's goals came from him getting backside and our players kicking it to his advantage. They weren't from like one of them was a hack forward into the goal square and Lucky took the mark, but Lucky was getting out the back a lot, and that's when we have time and we put it to the advantage side of Lucky. I'm so over us talking about our clearance numbers when I just don't think they lead to anything. Enough that we score from stoppage. In a lot of games we win. A lot of our winning, a lot of reason why we've won has come from scores from stoppage, right? But it's not clean. It's grubby. And if it doesn't work, look how cleanly the Bulldogs won it out of the centre, mate. Every time that ball spilled into the outside, we were second to it every single time.
I'd be curious how many goals they got from stoppage. I don't think they got a lot. I think most of theirs would have been coming from turnover and repeat entries.
Turnover was a lot too.
Yeah, because I think their clearances were actually fairly well covered, I felt like, a lot of the time. For us, I felt it was, and I can understand what you're saying. I think our problem isn't as much that it's, and this is what I like about Finbar, so I'll pull these guys in together at the same time.
Yeah.
Larky is his contested mark has improved hugely.
Yes.
But he's not the kind of forward at the moment who crashes a pack and brings the ball to ground. Finbar is. Finbar on quite a few occasions, if you watch a lot of those entries and rewatch him, when he didn't get a lot of the ball, what he was doing, and there was about 4 or 5 times in that first quarter or first half where the ball would be coming in hard and the ball was going to be O'Connell mark, or was going to be potentially a lob mark, and Finbar just hits the pack so hard he didn't mark it. Like, he'd get a couple of times he could have taken marks.
I agree with you. I agree.
But the ball would spill every time. And then when the ball spilled...
the Dogs swept it up.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the Dogs were sweeping it up. But, like, he's actually getting the ball to come to ground in a predictable manner. And I think that's what Finbar was offering in that situation. They ended up with a lot of intercepts, and a lot of it was coming from... I'd be curious, like, where the method... I'd have to watch it again to see where the intercepts specifically come from. The long kicks to big contests. We did a couple of nice ones where we dropped the eyes and we're hitting those targets in the corners and in the pockets. But, I thought the midfield, like, Tom Powell, I thought had a fairly good game, 8 tackles. I mean, Tom Powell's the number one midfielder against Bontempelli, against Ed Richards, against Liberatore playing out of his skin. Like, you're talking about 3 of arguably the top 20 midfielders in the league, and he's the number one midfielder for us in this spot. Like, I thought he had an exceptional game. And then and LDU was looking so good to start, which is the most disappointing part of his injury.
Yeah.
So, that would be my call on them. I think Power stood out. I think Simpkin had good rotations through there. Sheasel has, like, really good one touch, but he doesn't get it quite enough in those moments. A few interesting ones to watch. But, like, I didn't mind Midfield. Cherry was extremely dominant, just to put him into there, particularly that first half. Unfortunately, English got a couple of goals on him in that first half, which actually really hurt in the counter. So English did well to get out the other side, but it's an interesting watch. I like that midfield overall.
Yeah. It's so interesting because I feel really different about it, to be honest. I mean, I don't think Jerry got on top of English much at all. I think, I don't take the most useless stat in the AFL for me personally is hit outs. It's hit outs because doesn't matter if you hit it out, doesn't mean it goes to your team. And I love the helmet. Don't get me wrong. He's a fantastic player and a fantastic ruckman.
Still that X-hate coming out.
Oh, come on, mate.
After all these years.
No, like he wasn't bad at all. I think English maybe had the more impactful touches and moments in the game. And yes, the goals, but in that midfield, when English was jumping basically over Sherry's head, and he got that ball to spill sort of further away from the contest, the Dogs just swept it up every time. It was almost like a tactic when I feel like we had to work so hard to get anything semi-clean out of the midfield. So it's an interesting discussion point. I mean, if for those watching on YouTube, please put your comments below on how you felt about the midfield battle, because we're very different in opinion here, and we're sitting at the same game, and it's interesting how we see things differently. But yeah, I don't feel like Sherry was on top much at all. And then the midfield, I didn't even think we won clearance. I would have thought they would have dominated us with clearance. And I guess it's maybe the speed and the space they had from clearance maybe made me feel like that, when our game is much more contested and get that ball forward. But yeah, look, I don't know how I feel exactly about it. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people can correct me or let me know. But, you know, I mean, Shizu's game, not overly impactful, had a couple of shots at goal, you know, kicked one, and, you know, definitely felt like he got a lot of CBAs as well for this game. You know, Simpkin had 31, Power had 28, Phillips 26, Shizu 20, and then it drops all the way down to Finbar at 7. So
what did you have of Phillips' game, by the way? It's an interesting point.
What's that, sorry?
What did you have of Phillips' game?
A classic Will Phillips game, mate. Didn't do anything wrong. Didn't impact anything greatly for me. I mean, 16 touches. I was talking to people and say he'll probably get 14 touches and lay some tackles. He was fine, but, you know, I had a few discussions with some North fans that came into the shop this week about Phillips, and I just don't know if I think we talk about Phillips as the guy to come in because he's the guy who's currently out, but I don't think he's the solution at all to anything in the midfield of us. I think he's an underwhelming player who, yes, has been hard done by with opportunity, but I'm trying to think of a moment other than when he tagged Dacos that I can think for a Will Phillips game, and there's not really those there. He's been on the list for a while. Look, I hope he can move on and be a really good player at another club, and I love that he loves the place and has leadership quality, but he's not the answer, mate. And it was exactly what I expected from Will Phillips. Nothing bad, nothing overly amazing. Lay some tackles, put on some pressure, do the hard stuff, but it's not the same way that Wardlaw does the hard stuff, which doesn't break the game open. You know what I mean? As chaotic as it can be.
Well,
what do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, like, I talk about in games like this, and I think about opportunity. Like, Phillips is not going to have a better opportunity to be the number one midfielder the midfielder in the role he wants than he had last night. I mean, that was an absolute opportunity for him to really steal and take a game. After watching the game, I think he plays next week just due to injuries and all this kind of stuff. After watching,
there's not really anyone else to bring in though, is there? Yeah. Urquhart? Like who do we?
Yeah, Urquhart's not quite ready yet, but
no way.
But my feeling on Phillips is he's gone and it's better for both parties.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I'm not happy saying it though.
I'm saying
I like Will Phillips, but it's just kind of how it is, isn't it?
It is, unfortunately. Though, if we're going to talk about others at the moment with that came in with subpar performances,
go on.
I mean, we all know who comes here, Dersma. Yeah. I have not been more disappointed in a game for a long time.
Yeah, Dersma, it just feels like it's coming to a bit of an end, and I don't want to go prematurely on that. And I know he's got so much talent, but if at the end of the season, if there's an opportunity to use any value he's got to get a key position or a player in, I would absolutely say you should be taking that. We said at the time, not drafting. I know this is hindsight, but the Nick Watson being there, you know, is a travesty for what we needed. Curtin as well is 100%. Well, then he would have taken Will Dawson's spot, mate. What are you talking about?
He's never taken Will Dawson's spot in my heart.
It's just the perfect example of why would you draft up. Now, Eddie Ford and him can't get in the team if we're fully fit. Yeah. And Eddie Ford is also a good enough player to be in this team, or showed last year, I think, that he was a good enough player to be. So, yeah, it's just poor drafting, mate. And we've had some hits and we've got some great players. And Colby, I want to talk about in a second as well, even though we touched on him, but I want to talk about his good stuff. But yeah, very, very disappointing with Dersma. Couldn't even find the football, mate, to be honest. He was barely on the ground, it felt like, and he played the whole game.
Yeah, it was actually really, really disappointing. I mean, he's got a lot of talent, and you saw that with the first and only possession of the first half that he had, where he's done a beautiful lace-out kick and hit, I think it was, what's his name? Curtis on the chest from a good 40-metre kick. Yep. And it looked beautiful. And he's got so many assets, but then there was another play which won't get noted or won't get seen on TV where he's been at the halfback, his opponent and him have gone up for the ball. The ball's spilled. His opponent sprinted forward. Dersma started to walk, and then about two hand passes later, his opponent's got the ball unmanned, running and setting up the next goal for the Dogs. And you're watching and you're like, after a week where it's talked about you're not in love with the club and the club's not in love with you, I mean, can't really buy too much into media stuff like that.
I know.
But that is not showing me,
What is it, though? Why do you think? What is it? What's going on with him?
It's partly, for me, it's obviously his engine isn't quite there. He was always going to be a slow burn. My concern is effort. And effort, you look at, just by comparison as well, it's forward/mid role of Cooper Harvey. like Cooper when he was playing at the ball and when like a few plays where he's running flat, he was tackling hard, he was getting that second, third possession in a chain. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think he ended up with a lot of the ball, but no one was questioning at the end of the game that Harvey wanted to be there and wanted to play. At the 100%. End of that game, you're watching Dersma and you're like, why are you on the field?
Yeah. No, I completely. Well, let's go into Cooper Harvey then. I thought he played really, really well. I mean, look, nothing crazy outstanding. I guess the goal was fantastic, but just played his role really, really well. Sort of wing drifting down to halfback, but sort of played in between the 50s, more on the right-hand wing. And I thought he did really, really well. I'll just look up some of his numbers here. I mean, maybe he didn't even have as many as I thought, but, he has 15 touches, 1 goal, 1. I think 6 tackles or 6 contested possessions, for the game. So I think he plays next week, mate. I liked definitely what I saw. And once again, I think that pointing at him and Dersma together here is actually a really good point where, and I know we're fans and this can be a little bit hypothetical sometimes, but playing for the jumper, you can tell Cooper sort of did it. And you can tell Dersma maybe wasn't into it as much. So, and it was interesting with the media hype talk about Dersma. Him being selected straight into this team sort of made me go, maybe that's not true. Maybe that's just some sensationalism in the headlines like we know that they do. But, yeah, you can't argue down the night. So give me your thoughts on Cooper. I think he was really solid, and I hope he gets a little run here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, you look at I think he deserves his spot next week. I think he's – after a guy that was last signed on our list, I think he's a good chance to get another year, and I think he deserves another year.
Yep.
His VFL performances we've talked and spoken about previously, and I think watching him last night again, and I think, there's nothing about that game to me that suggested he wasn't playing system. There was nothing suggesting that he wasn't running hard in defense and running hard both ways, and he was offering something going forward. It's just really, really disappointing. And yet again, I'll just make another comparison, which I think is also a fair one, is I think Finbar only had 1 disposal in the first half as well. Mm-hmm. But Finbar, again, every time the ball would come, he would fly hard. I barely saw and Dersma is an elite marker and an elite jump.
Yeah.
And I didn't once, I think, see him fly at a ball, didn't once see him lead up to a spot.
And he was playing deeper in the goal square as well at plenty of times as well. There was, I think, the start of the second, he was starting in the goal square. Yeah, and it just didn't even know where he was on the field.
Yeah, and Dersma's talent's undeniable. When you VFL, the last game against the game they played against Carlton, he was really, really stellar. But he just looks lazy when he's playing, and I'm not sure what it is. And he just looks disengaged. And it's hard when you've got comparisons of players with less, in my opinion, less talent, but much more heart. And that's as I said, your Harveys and your Finbars who are, throwing their body, putting their body on the line. They've got their opportunity. They're not trying to throw it away. They're trying everything they are to stay in there. And I don't think Dersma's doing the same thing, which is really, really disappointing.
Completely fair. We're going to go to my guy now, the guy that you wanted dropped earlier in the year, mate, Colby McKerch. You hated him. You said he's the worst player I've ever seen in my life.
This is escalating.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I get passionate about my Tassie boys, mate. Colby McKerch in the game. We talked about some of the negatives, and I'm not trying to shy away from that. But his last 6 to 8 weeks of football has been phenomenal. He's been arguably our best, top 3 best, most consistent over the last couple of months. And there's your role. There's the role he plays. That's where he plays now. I don't mind him around stoppage, around the ground as well. I think she's shown he can lay a tackle. The one thing I liked about him was, even though him and Daniel got caught out a little bit in defence, he was always looking where the spare player was and going back and manning him when he did get caught in the back pocket. So he's clearly defensively aware enough. Does he have the physicality to do it? Probably not. But that's not his role. And that's the same with Daniel. It's not his role. But I really like that when he did get caught back there and we did have a turnover in the midfield, first thing he'd do when he was around the half-back line was look and see where the guy was behind him and go and man up on him. Yeah. And I think that's really smart by him. But the drive he gives us, mate, off that half-back line is incredible. And this was one of the, this is not a I told you so moment at all. That was just sarcasm before Joel, of course. But the things I did say about him when we were questioning him was he offers something so unique to this team maybe it's just a squad depth thing, but you can't drop him because if he does have that game, it's so invaluable to this team that no one else can do it. And I think he's sort of started to really, really show that. I mean, I made a prediction at the start of the year on the pod when we do the 10 things we're going to predict for the season, which I don't have many of them right for that episode at the end of the year. But I said Colby will be up there as an A-grader potential he'll be up there with Sheasel by the end of the year as a talent and as a player. And at the moment, I think he's getting there. I think he's getting there, to be honest. I know what I'm seeing, and this guy could be the best player in our team at some point. I think arguably he's got the highest ceiling at the club, not just positionally, but just out of everybody. He's top 3 highest ceilings, if not the highest ceiling for me. I think this guy is going to be an absolute superstar, and my God, I love Colby McKercher. The Lonnie boys, mate, they breed him different down there, I tell you what. And he was phenomenal. And congratulations on the new signature, which takes him past the first year of Tassie, which I wasn't too worried about because I don't think a 21-year-old is going to run back to Tasmania for a team he's never even seen before. You're not moving back to country Tassie, mate. But look, Colby McKercher, I love you so much.
Yeah, I know. He was obviously, I think disposal, which he'll tidy up over time. His second year, I mean, I'm not expecting him to be
because he's got the skill to do it. Once those kicks come off, it's gonna be unbelievable.
And just seeing the drive and the speed, like that, what you're seeing now is what we'll see in juniors. His ability to just run, repeat, get the next one, run, repeat, get the next one. He burns people with his feet. He's got the confidence to take it on. He's got a long kick when he wants to. He's been the last 5-6 weeks, probably a little bit longer. He's been top 3, top 2 in our list at the moment. I think he's pretty up there at the moment.
The last person we might touch on before we go to some of the forwards would be Bailey Scott. What did you make of Bailey Scott's return game?
I'll use the word boring, but not in a bad way.
Good enough?
Yeah, I mean, it was boring, but he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't stand out.
I think he provided some run on the outside of the contest. I think, mate, unless I just saw it in the pocket that I was at. But I don't know. I'm not screaming from the rooftops about his game, but I don't know, man. Does he get a game next week? Does he play next week? Do you reckon?
Yeah, he'll play next week. I mean, we just have too many injuries not to play, so he'll play. Don't worry about that.
Okay. No, you're right. Oh, we got another visitor for you. Yeah, I liked Bailey Scott. I thought Bailey Scott was really, really productive and really, really solid, to be honest. I don't know. Am I turning on Bailey Scott? Probably not. But we'll see about Bailey Scott. If you're listening on YouTube, put us down below. What did you think of Bailey Scott's? What do you think of Bailey Scott's performance? Because I think good enough is the way that I would describe it, to be honest. I'm not overwhelmed, but he didn't do anything wrong and definitely looked better, a lot better. I mean, it's not hard, but looked a lot better than what he'd shown earlier in the year as well. So I don't know. I just wanted to touch on and see what you thought. Yeah, nothing outstanding, but good enough.
Yeah, I mean, he works exceptionally hard and he was working exceptionally hard. So I'm pretty happy with where he was at. I don't think there's a lot of other players I'll put in ahead of him. That being said, if you're bringing him as depth, I don't think it's the worst situation for us. I mean, if we can offload him at the end of the year for some value, I would. If not, I would keep him and be very happy. He's not a bad player. He can do AFL quality stuff. It's been an exceptionally disappointing year for him. So, yeah, just to watch.
All right, I'm going to chat a bit about Finbar because we'll go to the forwards here. Now, I completely agree with you that he making a contest and bringing it to ground is something he did very, very well. How much do I value that as a skill? Probably not super highly because I feel like if I flew over a pack, even I would be able to bring it to ground sometimes. No, look, I'm joking a little bit there. Look, I don't know if I see him as a player that's going to be in this team in the future. Like, I think he's a player that maybe can do an okay job for a couple of years until we find the forward that is next to Larkey. That's maybe where I see his potential at. I like his marking ability, even though I do feel like he dropped everything last night. And even though, yes, it's hard. The Bulldogs took so many contested marks and they're very big and very physical. There was still plenty in there that I've seen him mark before that I think he should have got to. There's a few he did drop. And he did kick a goal and it was very, very straight, but I'm still terrified when he lines up for goal. So I don't know. If it was up to me, I would like to probably see a different player be given a shot. But I'm not upset if he stays in the team as well, because I know what he can bring. I just think there's a little bit of a ceiling there when it comes to Finbar. I might be being a bit harsh here. I guess it's just a personal opinion. This is something else we'll disagree on, which is good for the pod, and I want people to give us their opinions down below. But I don't know. I'm not sold on Finbar. He's fun, and the mustache is cool, and his name is fun, and he's got Cold Hero written all over him. But I just don't know fully if I see him being in this team in a couple of years. Am I crazy?
I mean, I don't disagree with you, but I don't agree with you at the same time. I think there's something special about, like, his marking is, like, even though we didn't pull down a huge amount of him, his marking and his pack crushing is AFL elite. Otherwise, like, you don't get, like, that's a skill you can't teach what he's doing. As I said, like, just by comparison, you look at Larky. Larky does some things exceptionally well. He's a leader. I think his contested marking's improved through the roof this season.
Massively.
But you look at what Finbar does. Finbar kills packs. And, like, Darling doesn't do that. There's no one on our list that does that as well as he does it.
I can agree with that.
And if we give him, he definitely deserves another year contract at least. And if he can just improve like 10% and a bit of engine to get to more contests, if he can improve in another 10% just to get maybe, I think his kicking's a bit overstated of how bad it is. Like, I mean, I don't think he's kicked that poorly at AFL level, and I don't think at VFL level it's that poor. It's not great. It looks ugly half the time, but it's not like he's kicking, like, I mean, remember Anthony...
2 goals, 7 or something, yeah.
No, Anthony Rocker and, Sav Rocker numbers at different stages. So I think it's a bit overstated, his kicking as bonus, and I think there's something there to work with. I'm not convinced I don't think he'll ever be the 1-2 forward for us. But I think he could be a 3 forward that could be like a stringer type that, creates the contest, brings the ball down, creates the occasional freaky thing. I think there's something there. I like him a lot. I like him a lot, and I think he does things well enough to. Next year will be the big year for him. If he's not, if he's doing this next year, he'll be off the list at the end of the year. If he's improved another 10%, he'll be a lock in our best 22. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, I got nothing against him.
Yeah, no.
Like, I like him. He's a nice guy, and I'd love him to work out. Don't get me wrong. So exciting. When we went to the Richmond game, every time he got the ball, we loved it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's great, and he's got Cold Hero written all over him. I really do back him. I don't know. I'm so desperate for us to already have had the key forward, like a caddy who we could have drafted again, on this list. And I think we're going to look back in 2-3 years and go, that's the piece we haven't got, because they take longer to develop and we need it now. And that's my massive, massive worry. And maybe that's why I go harsher on a Finbar and want to see, look, I don't think CCJ is going to be the guy anymore. I was on the CCJ hype train, and if he comes back and he kicks a goal, you better believe I'll be back on that. But, I just want to see some different players get an opportunity up there, because Tiku not getting a shot, I think, is crazy. Even a game. Just to see what he can do, because I do think he's a better footballer than Finbar. Yeah, and I agree, because if he's not playing, I agree, but I don't agree with it at all. I think he's been good enough to – last year he was more than good enough to be getting opportunity at the level, and to not be given a shot over a guy like Finbar, who's very raw.
Finbar's been far better in the VFL.
Oh, I don't know. I think Tickle as well positionally is way more valuable to this team than what Finbar can offer. Maybe, imagine if we had him in the game last night. That we got someone to go straight into the ruck, and then you don't have Darling going in the ruck. I don't know. I'm just.
No, I don't disagree. I can see what you're saying with Tickle.
I know what you mean as well. I know. I get you, but
CCJ, since he's come back, and I'm not a big CCJ fan. But since he's
reports he's done pretty well.
He's been exceptional, and he's been looking really good. Tickle, unfortunately, particularly the last 3 or 4 weeks, to me, has looked really checked out now.
But that's when CCJ's come back as well, and but I think he deserved a shot earlier in the season. I do believe he deserved the shot before Finbar, just because of his year before, and he was kicking goals and being a real impactful player at the level in the first chunk of the VFL season. And look, I don't know football as well as everyone who works. I get all that. I'm so worried about this second key forward position the next couple of years, because I don't think it's Finbar. I don't think it's anyone on the list except Whitlock potentially, and they're just not playing him there.
I agree with you on that.
I'm just really concerned about it. Zerha Curtis, the dynamic duo. Let's have a chat about them. I mean, quieter for the game. Zerha's had a couple of weeks after some really, really good weeks in a row where, I mean, he kicked a couple, but maybe not quite as much impact on the game. I mean, he was okay. Curtis was okay as well, but maybe would have liked to see a little bit more from them as just a duo, maybe, because I think that's always an area we can take advantage of teams. And we didn't seem to have the same setup that we did against the Blues, where we gave them space to isolate in the forward line. What did you think about those? I'm not saying they were bad at all. I think Zerha did enough and impacted enough, but, maybe slightly flatter than what we've been accustomed to with Zerha and Curtis earlier in the year.
Curtis came on and started really hot, in my opinion. Like, out of his first 5 possession, I think it was 3 score assists and a goal. So, like, even though we didn't get a huge amount of possessions, all of his possessions were counting. Bull, I thought, was a little bit quiet, but then he had like a really hot spurt for a little while there. He could have kicked a couple of goals at the end of the half. I think he just missed
hit the post to one.
Yeah, and I thought, like, he did enough. Like, it's not going to be a game that you remember, but that being said, I think he played his role well enough. He caused enough concern. He hit packs harder. He's been really aggressive, which I've really liked. So he's done enough. Constanti, the other one, obviously. I just love his tackling and his endeavour. And Hansen Jr., I think, acquitted himself well. I prefer Banch over one of those guys at the moment, personally.
Who would you change there? There's such different players, Constanti and RHJ. Let's go on to them a little bit then. Like, I think Robert Hansen had some moments where he looked really clean and looked really smart with the football, made the right decision. It's maybe the amount of times he gets the ball isn't quite enough, but, I mean, he was the sub as well, even though he came on very, very early. Constanti, tackling pressure, unquestionable. He was part of that. He sweeped up. He was one of the people in the middle of the ground for that transition goal from the Dylan Stevens spoil as well. He does a lot of good things around the ground that won't get credit for, but, it is the tackle pressure. I do think I'd like to pair a Banch with a Constanti because we've said this a few weeks in a row that if Constanti goes out, the same people who don't want him there are going to complain that no one tackles in the forward 50 or no one does any, even just pressure acts. Don't even just look at tackles. Pressure acts and things around the ball to make a player second guess and kick it long instead of find the open man. And that's the sort of stuff Constanti can do. So I would love more scoreboard pressure for Constanti. We say this all the time, but I think you got to, 1, keep him there to develop, and 2, if we can get a bench beside him, do you think that's the matchup? Because it's got to be Constanti or RHJ, surely. Or I guess Cooper Harvey as well, maybe.
Harvey's a bit taller and a bit of a mic.
I know he's a different player, but I'm thinking about players who maybe are slightly like for like that could be swapped for bench. But
it is a bit of time because, like, JK's role and what he's doing, I really love, and I think he's been doing it exceptionally. RHJ, I don't think set a lot of feet wrong since he's been in our seniors. I think he's actually been quite good. Like, he's not stellar, and I don't think he's in our best 22 in a couple of years.
Yeah.
But by the same token, he's not doing anything that will...
It's just impacting around the ground, though, isn't it? Like, it's almost like last year, Dylan Stevens, where when he gets the ball, I think he makes good decisions, and he's quite a clean user of the football. It's just he gets 8 touches a game. And what can you really do as a midfield, playing around the midfield, what can you really do with 8 touches a game? And the answer is probably not much. So if you can get the ball a bit more, then he can impact a little bit more. But I don't know. Yeah, I think probably not in the 23 if we've got everyone fit, but an okay backup. And I wouldn't hate. He's got another year after this already. He signed at the start of the year, didn't he? So,
yeah, he's got one more year left on his contract. He's like, the thing that I would say with him, and the reason I'd persist, and I'm happy that they've got him for another year at least, is last year when he was in the seniors, he looked completely lost and barely could touch it. This year, he touches it like, 5 or 6 times he'll touch it and he'll make something happen.
Like, he's more confident when he gets it too.
He's more confident. And if he does that again next year, like, you've got to, like, growth is a really important step to watch.
It's a big step.
It's a big step. And if he continues to do that, he's going to be really, really good in that space.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, for sure. Anyone else you sort of want to talk about before we go to Club Champ and the golden helmet moment of the game? I mean, we've sort of covered nearly everybody. I mean, Riley Hardiman, he was fine. I don't think he impacted greatly, drove us forward a lot, even though I think a lot of those kicks did get intercepted. O'Sullivan, it was like most of our backs. O'Sullivan was 10 touches on for the game, one of his sort of more quiet games and things like that. So, yeah, anyone else you sort of want to touch on? What do we got there, Joel? Is that a cat?
That is a cat.
Unbelievable. Anyone else you sort of want to touch on? I mean, we don't have to dive into it just so the podcast isn't too long, but yeah, just in case you got any final thoughts on the players.
I think they've all they all played their role pretty well. I think I really liked Riley's role. I think he was our best of the rest defenders. Dawson was our best defender on the night for me, and then I think Riley was our next best as in the one-on-ones. He didn't lose a lot of one-on-ones, and his competitiveness was great. So I mean, for me, that was what I really was watching at the time. But otherwise, no, I tend to agree with you. I think pretty happy with their effort overall, but those were the ones.
Yeah. I mean, just touching on the umpiring, we all of us as fans at the ground hated it. It was atrocious. But then you sort of have a think and you say, is this me as a fan getting overreacting or is it real? And the free kick count was fairly close for the night, I think. But going to the barbershop today, at least 3 or 4 people who are neutral fans who watched the game said, you guys got royally screwed by the umpires. The Toby Pink spoil out of bounds is the worst deliberate out of bounds call I've ever seen. They must have got 6 or 7 deliberate out of bounds calls on the night. And just the areas that they were getting, the 50-metre penalty for Darcy is soft. Geez, they got a lot. And it's not changing the result. And we're not trying to be those fans. But, man, that was one of the most poor umpiring displays I've seen in a game for a long, long time. And that's a low list.
There would have been one in front of you as well, I reckon, in front of the Bay 29, where it was Tom Powell getting pressured, got the ball, gone right up against the boundary. His options are either to run it over or try to kick it down the ground. And they've called, he had no option other than to run it. In that situation, the umpire wants him to run it across the boundary lines. It's the only other option he has.
Yeah,
and I'm
completely agree.
If your only thing to do, and it's not like he was aiming for the boundary, he was just trying to kick it to clear an area.
Kick it forwards, yep.
And it's either that or run it over the line and then probably get called deliberate for running it over the line.
Yeah, it's the worst rule in sports, mate. I know the interpretation is different to what the rule says it is. Everyone who pretends to fumble it over the line is rushing it over deliberately, and that's not. But if you hack it out of a pack over your head and it bounces at a right angle, that's deliberate apparently. So I know the interpretation isn't to the wording of the rule, but that was shocking on the night, and the Dogs benefited greatly from it. I mean, we turned the ball over so much, and definitely weren't the better team overall on the night. But the free kicks definitely, the times we did break or had a chance to win a contest in the middle of the ground, the Dogs were gifted a lot, and their run and spread from the free kicks was better, and they drove it forward. But the umpires were genuinely just absolutely atrocious, and the fact that they get paid for that performance and not criticised is a joke.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it was poor. I mean, I'm not going to, I don't think it changes the result for us. I think the game's a bit closer. I think, as I said, third quarter, at the end of the third, we gave ourselves a chance going into the fourth. I don't think we're out of it come at 3/4 time. And then, unfortunately, I mean, the reality is we ran out of the legs in the end. That's what happened. And we had some injuries pile up, and we're not a side that can play with a short bench or play with, ex-LDU and Larky not playing for most of, if not all, the last quarter really kills you.
And that's where the score blew out too, wasn't it, right? So realistically, I think we probably lost by 4 or 5 goals. It sort of blew out in the last quarter, which made me a little bit, unhappy about it. But
I wasn't too disappointed with you don't want to ever lose by that much, but...
No, but I think as fans, we watched it and went, the effort was there. And
absolutely.
You can sort of see that. So
and the
let's
growth.
go to... Sorry, mate, what'd you say?
And the growth was there as well.
Absolutely. Let's go to Club Champ. I've got 3 names. I don't know the order. Will Dawson is going to get a vote. Colby McKercher and Nick Larkey. They're my 3. Do you have anyone different?
They're 3 very good options. The only one that I would personally chuck in there potentially would be a X-type. Or I loved Power's game personally. But that being said, I'm not going to... Kirch... for me, if we're going Club Champ, I'm going to go Dawson for the role that he played. Against the most hot in-form forward unicorn, everything that the AFL wants him to be. Sam Darcy's the poster boy at the moment. And I can't disagree with it looking at him. And Dawson managed to bring that man into the mud and really wrestle with him and compete exceptionally well. So, for me, I would go 3 on him. Larky probably gets the 2 just for what should have been 5 goals for me in the first quarter, and then I'd go 1 to Kirch.
Can I? Okay, so I want to flip Larky, and I'll go Will Dawson 3 because I know people are going to comment on me when I post the Club Champ votes and go, he wasn't the best on his role. What he did, just phenomenal stuff. For me, it's Dawson 3, it's Kirch 2, and it's probably Larky 1. Larky was phenomenal for that quarter, but did vanish a bit, and not his fault for getting a knee knock and stuff. But 5 goals for the game, fantastic. But Kirch from start to finish, barring a few turnovers, which I can forgive because what his role is. God, he was good. He was so good. I mean, look, okay, if I'm going to let you put Will Dawson with 3 votes, you're going to give me Kirch 2.
Yeah,
all of our boys.
We'll do this. We'll do this. And, man, I'll just add to what you said earlier. I think it's well worth mentioning. People who are still against Dylan Stephens have not been watching North play. The man's heart and courage, like, people are calling him soft. He is not soft. He's repeat running, his heart, he was dropping back into holes. Yep. He is a different player and he deserves the spot. And he's from a player that I thought was at best a sub to now being a best 22 to now being best 15 in our club. It's been a stellar year for him. Like, he's not going to be in the club chat this year, but he deserves a lot. Yeah. Look,
I don't want to bang on about Dylan Stephens all the time, and it's not even me. I'm not even joking around about it. He's genuinely been such a good player for us at this time. So Dylan Stephens is a player that if you're totally right, Joel. If you're still doubting Dylan Stephens, I'm not saying he's a phenomenal player, but if you're still thinking Dylan Stephens doesn't have a place in the team, you just don't watch the games. You just don't. So thank you for doing that, because I don't want to go on about Dylan Stephens all the time. And once again, he's not the guy that's going to tear up the stats and everything, but he's such a crucial part of this team this season. So well done to him. I was going to say almost, I mean, if we're giving more votes, I would maybe think Powell, and then you could throw in, I think you could throw in Dylan Stephens to that, just for that spoil alone, and just putting his body on the line. And the times we did get the ball past halfway, he was very often on the end of those kicks that did land. So anyway, the 3-2-1 has been decided. Dylan Stephens is the Sean Atley Club champ of my heart. Speaking of Dylan Stephens, is there any other moment for the game for the golden helmet?
The only other moment that you could consider really heavily, I think, is the Cooper Harvey goal.
You're not wrong. I kind of want to be biased and put Dennis Pagan's speech in it. It's got to be Dylan Stephens this week. It's absolutely got to be. That got the Bay off our feet. Yeah. We went mental. And because it led to a transition goal as well, we all stood up when Dylan Stephens did it and started clapping, go, yes, Dylan. And then we saw this play unfolding and the Bay went absolutely mental, mate. So it's got to be Dylan Stephens, but shout out to Cooper's goal, and an extra special shout out to Pagan revving us up before the game.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's Cooper's a good go, but like that, for what that led to for the team and the actual team involvement afterwards, that was stellar.
Fantastic. All right, mate, let's not make this go too long. Let's leave it there. Thank you for coming on again. Thank you for all your thoughts. We had a few disagreements this week, which is fantastic content.
It's good content.
For the podcast, which is great content. So thank you, and maybe I'll catch up with you maybe at the D's game, and we'll review another game in a few weeks.
Don't worry about that. I'll be there.
See you, mate.
Cheers.